Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going into a story that, honestly, it baffled investigators for years. It's a really perplexing case. We're talking mysterious DNA, some truly groundbreaking forensic tech, and even, the power of hypnosis. We're going to unpack the story of Brittani Marcell. She was just 17 when her life was violently changed forever. Our mission today is to walk through the details, police reports, personal accounts, all of it, and see how this almost impossible mystery finally got solved, and, crucially, what questions are still out there.
Yeah, what's so compelling about this one is how different threads came together. You've got this incredibly determined mother, Diane. You have a dedicated detective, and then these, almost unbelievable capabilities of both the human mind recovering memory and this cutting-edge science. It's a story with so many twists, turns that honestly kept everyone guessing for almost 10 years. It really pushed the limits.
Okay, let's set the scene. It all starts on September 11th, 2008. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Brittani Marcell is 17. A high school senior described by everyone as just, positive, kind, big dreams of becoming a TV newscaster. She even worked part-time at a glasses store, apparently loved chatting with people, helping them out. Now, on this particular day, she and her mom, Diane, had made sort of unusual plans. They were going to have lunch together at home. Brittani got there first. When Diane arrived, she walked in the front door and, it was a nightmare. Brittani was on the floor, in a pool of blood. Her face was swollen, just blood everywhere, school books scattered, clearly a violent struggle.
It's just horrific.
And then Diane sees him, a male intruder, holding this blunt object. She actually recognized him, Diane did, but in that moment of pure terror and chaos, she couldn't quite place where she knew him from. He throws the object down, grabs a kitchen knife, threatens Diane, actually told her, "You're next," and then crashes through a living room window to escape.
And right away, looking at that scene, it's obvious this wasn't just a break-in gone wrong, right?
Yeah, nothing was taken.
Exactly, nothing stolen. The attacker's only goal, it seems, was to hurt Brittani. Seriously hurt her. So the immediate question is, who would do this? Who targets a 17-year-old girl described as universally kind? No known enemies, no difficult relationships mentioned. That lack of an obvious motive, that's a huge red flag for investigators right from the start.
Right, so police get there, they secure the scene, they find the key evidence, the blunt object, the knife he grabbed, some tape was found too, and of course that shattered window he escaped through. Yeah. But the most critical piece, potentially, was found just outside that window. A single, tiny drop of blood.
The key. Or so they hoped.
Exactly. They thought, this is it. This will lead us to him. But when they ran the DNA from that blood drop...
Nothing. No match in CODIS, the state or national criminal database.
Correct. Which suggested pretty strongly that their attacker probably didn't have a prior criminal record. This horrific violence might have been his first major offense.
Which makes finding him even harder.
Incredibly hard. Meanwhile, Brittani's condition was just beyond critical. Rushed to the hospital, multiple skull fractures, severe brain swelling, internal bleeding. She also had defensive wounds on her arms and wrists, tragically showing she tried to fight back, to protect herself. She was in a deep coma. Pupils weren't responding to light. Doctors had to tell Diane and the family to prepare for the worst. Her chances were practically zero.
It's almost impossible to even imagine that scenario. And from a medical perspective, the challenge is immense. How do you even keep someone alive with injuries like that, let alone hope for recovery? They performed a craniectomy. That's where they surgically remove a piece of the skull.
Right, to relieve the pressure.
Exactly. To give the swelling brain room literally space to expand without being crushed against the bone. But the really astonishing part, something you rarely hear about, they decided to store that piece of her skull inside her own abdomen.
Wow.
Yes. It sounds incredible, but it's a technique used sometimes. It keeps the bone fragment viable, nourished by her body, ready for reattachment later when the swelling went down. It's just amazing medical thinking, and a testament to her will to survive, too.
And somehow, against all odds, it worked. 2 weeks later, 2 grueling weeks, Brittani came out of the coma. She started breathing on her own. The brain swelling finally subsided.
A genuine miracle.
Absolutely. But the road back was incredibly long, so arduous. 16 surgeries in total, a full year of intense physical therapy, occupational therapy, relearning everything, how to walk, talk, basic motor skills. She eventually did regain her ability to speak, to communicate, but there was one huge, agonizing piece missing.
Her memory.
Yes. She had no memory of the attack itself. None at all.
That's retrograde amnesia. Very common with severe head trauma like she suffered. The brain essentially shuts down access to the traumatic event, sometimes the period just before it too. It can be a protective mechanism, or simply due to the physical damage. She actually thought she'd been in a really bad car accident.
Right. She had no idea she'd been attacked in her own home.
Which, for the investigation, was a massive blow. Your main witness, the victim, can't tell you what happened or who did it.
So where did that leave them? The initial police sketch, based on Diane's quick glimpse, Caucasian or Hispanic, 20s, maybe early 30s, about 5'7", clean-shaven, brown hair.
Pretty generic, unfortunately.
Yeah, it didn't generate any solid leads. Brittani's friends, family, co-workers, nobody could suggest anyone who would want to harm her. She was just well-liked. They even looked into Brittani's estranged father. He had a history of domestic violence, apparently. Diane even wondered, could he have hired someone, maybe intending to harm her, and they got Brittani by mistake?
A desperate thought, but understandable in that situation.
But police checked it out thoroughly, found no connection, ruled him out.
And this is where you see that classic cold case problem setting in, right? You run out of leads. Witness testimony is limited or unreliable, waiting for memory to return spontaneously. Well, it can happen, but you can't build an investigation around that hope. Especially with brain injury, the loss might be permanent or psychological. But Diane, Brittani's mother, she just refused to let it go cold, even after they moved away from Albuquerque, moved to Texas, trying to escape those traumatic memories tied to the house.
Understandable.
Absolutely. But Diane kept calling the detectives, checking in, pushing for answers. Just incredible perseverance.
And then finally, a potential turning point. By 2013, the case was officially cold, but it gets reassigned to a new detective, Jody Gatan. Detective Gatan was experienced, known for being really driven.
And she had a very personal connection to this kind of crime.
Yes. She had lost her own sister to murder years before, so she understood the family's pain on a deep level. She was determined to find justice for Brittani. It wasn't just another case file for her.
It was personal. A mission.
Exactly. So Detective Gatan looks at the file. She has that one piece of physical evidence, the John Doe DNA from the blood drop. But she knows that's not enough without a database hit. She needs more. So she goes back to Brittani, gently tries to see if anything, any small detail, can be retrieved. She focuses on the people around Brittani at the time, friends, people she worked with, acquaintances. Gatan systematically re-interviewed people, trying to eliminate them, trying to build a network.
And this is where Detective Gatan shows she's willing to think outside the box.
Right.
Traditional methods weren't working, so she proposes something unconventional.
Hypnosis.
Right. Hypnosis. Try and access those lost memories. Now, the hypnotist she consulted, Dr. Leon Morris, he was initially hesitant, and understandably so.
Because of brain injury?
Precisely. Was the memory loss purely physical damage, which hypnosis likely wouldn't help? Or was there a psychological component, a repression, that could potentially be accessed? It's a fine line.
But they decided, carefully, to try it. Dr. Morris did a baseline test first. Asked Brittani about simple things from that morning, things not related to the trauma, like her GPA.
Did you remember that?
Yes. She recalled getting a good GPA, like a 3.6 or 3.7. A small detail, but huge. It showed that some memories from that day were potentially still in there, accessible. It gave them hope.
Okay, so a glimmer.
A glimmer. So they proceed with the actual hypnosis session focused on the attack. And Brittani starts showing signs of distress. Physical signs, twitching. And then fragments start coming out. Being hit by something large, feeling the blood, and crucially, the attacker saying absolutely nothing, just silence during the assault.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's the first real description of the event itself from Brittani in years. Even fragmented, it's a breakthrough.
It was. And then, in the days after the session, something even more remarkable started happening.
The memory started surfacing more.
Yes. Not all at once, but in pieces, little flashes. And it eventually culminated in her being able to visualize the attacker's face. She described him. White or Hispanic male, black spiky hair, square face, large nose, shifty brown eyes, she said, large ears, wide forehead.
Oh, much more detail.
Much more. And importantly, she didn't remember seeing any tattoos on him. She remembered he was wearing a t-shirt. So this allowed them to create a brand new police sketch. Much more detailed than the first one.
Okay, so now they have a face, a much clearer face to put out there, and they still have the DNA.
Right. But still, that DNA didn't match anyone in the system. Even with the new sketch generating some tips, nothing panned out. It felt like another dead end was approaching.
Frustrating.
Extremely. But then, Detective Gatan learned about another option. This was 2016 now. A new cutting-edge technology called Snapshot DNA phenotyping.
Ah, yes. This is really fascinating science.
Explain that a bit. How does it work?
So, unlike traditional DNA comparison, which needs a match in a criminal database, Snapshot doesn't. It analyzes specific genetic markers in the DNA sample itself. And based on those markers, it can predict, with a surprising degree of accuracy, the person's physical appearance. Things like face shape, hair color, eye color, skin tone, even their ancestry.
So it basically generates a composite sketch directly from the DNA.
Essentially, yes. It gives you a likely physical profile when you have no name, no database hit. It's a powerful tool for cold cases like this to narrow down possibilities or focus investigations.
Incredible. And Brittani's family showing just amazing commitment. They actually paid for this expensive test themselves.
Wow. That really shows their dedication.
It does. So they send the DNA off for snapshot analysis. And while they're waiting for those results, something else happens. Completely out of the blue.
What was that?
Brittani remembers a name. Just surfaces in her mind. Justin Hansen.
Justin Hansen. Did she know why she remembered that name?
No idea. Just the name. Popped into her head years after the attack.
Okay. So, who was Justin Hansen in relation to Brittani?
Well, he wasn't a close friend or anything. He was the boyfriend of her best friend, Abby's older sister, Lauren. He'd actually gotten Lauren pregnant back then. Brittani had seen him around sometimes at Abby's house. He was about 7 years older than her. And apparently, he used to occasionally stop by the glasses store where Brittani worked part-time just to say hi, ask how she was doing.
So a casual acquaintance, really. Not someone you'd immediately suspect.
Not at all. Brittani herself couldn't fathom why his name would come up. It made no sense to her.
And then the snapshot results.
Then the snapshot results came back. And the face predicted by the DNA technology, it was a striking resemblance to Justin Hansen.
Wow. Okay, so the DNA prediction matches the name that surfaced from her memory. That's huge.
That's the strongest lead they'd had in nearly a decade. A specific person linked to the DNA.
So the police approach him.
Yes. They find Justin Hansen. By this time, he's married, father of 3, seems like a regular family guy. He's polite when they talk to him, cooperative in manner, denies any involvement, of course. But then he says something odd. He mentions he heard Brittani had been attacked and, raped.
Which wasn't true and wasn't public knowledge.
Exactly. A strange detail for him to offer up unprompted. He also, just like the DNA suggested, had no criminal record.
Okay, but the key moment is when they ask for his DNA, right?
Yeah.
What was his reaction?
That's where things shifted. Apparently, something like 14 or 15 other men who had been looked at over the years had willingly given DNA samples to clear themselves.
Standard procedure if you're innocent.
Right. But Justin, he hesitated. He said he wanted time to talk to his lawyer, or maybe his mother first.
That's a major red flag. Why refuse if you have nothing to hide?
Exactly. Detective Catan made sure to tell him, look, the snapshot prediction looks a lot like you. We might release this image publicly soon. Trying to apply some pressure.
A smart move.
Apparently, his mother, who loved him and believed he was innocent, even told him, Justin, if you didn't do it, just give them the DNA. Clear your name.
But he didn't.
He never contacted the police back. So they had to get creative. They started surveillance. One day, they follow him. He goes to McDonald's. After he leaves, they retrieve his discarded soda cup from the trash outside.
Simple but effective, getting abandoned DNA.
And they test the DNA from that soda cup.
And it matches.
It matches the blood drop found outside Brittani's window 9 years earlier. It was Justin Hansen.
Finally. They have him. It just makes you wonder, though, his initial politeness, but then refusing the DNA? Classic behavior as someone who knows they're caught, trying to delay the inevitable.
It seems so. So July 2017, they move in to arrest him for attempted murder. They tracked him after he picked up his kids from daycare, arrested him in a grocery store parking lot. He acted shocked, maintained his innocence, apparently made comments about how painful it was to be arrested in front of his children. And then, almost unbelievably, right around the time of his arrest, something happens with Brittani.
Her memory.
Her full memory of the attack came flooding back, just like that.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. She remembered coming home, opening the door, being hit from behind, falling, turning, and seeing Justin Hansen standing over her. She remembered asking him why, and him just continuing to beat her until she lost consciousness. The trauma of his arrest somehow unlocked everything.
Incredible and absolutely terrifying for her.
So the trial happens in January 2018. Hansen's defense, what could they argue?
Well, they focused on inconsistencies and lack of direct physical evidence inside the house.
Right. They argued the blood drop was outside. Maybe he was just there, broke the window, but didn't attack her. His DNA wasn't found on the weapons or the tape.
And the descriptions.
Yes, they hammered on the discrepancies. Brittani's hypnosis description mentioned brown eyes. Justin has quite distinct green eyes. And she specifically said she didn't see tattoos, but Hansen was heavily tattooed on his arms and neck by the time of the trial.
So they tried to cast doubt on her memory, on the identification. He even got briefly released on bail and went on TV proclaiming his innocence, talking about his kids.
A calculated move, maybe?
Definitely trying to sway public opinion. But it highlights how defense attorneys work, poke holes in the prosecution's narrative, using any inconsistency they can find. But the prosecution had the DNA match, which is powerful. And Brittani's own testimony, now with full memory recall.
Absolutely. The prosecution argued the blood outside was clearly from him fleeing after the attack, breaking the window. As for the tattoos, maybe they were covered by his t-shirt that day. Maybe the eye color detail was a misremembered fragment from hypnosis before the full memory returned. Brittani herself testified. Imagine the strength that took. She looked at him and said he was the person who stole her dreams, her future, made her suffer for 9 long years.
Her testimony must have been incredibly powerful.
Reports say it was devastating. So July 2018, the verdict comes in.
Guilty.
Guilty of attempted murder and assault. Sentenced to 18 years in prison.
For Brittani and Diane, probably not as long as they felt he deserved, but closure, accountability at least.
Accountability, yes. A beginning, as they put it. Not the full measure of justice, perhaps, but an acknowledgement of his guilt. And the story's a couple more twists, even after the conviction.
All right.
In November 2019, while he's serving his sentence, Justin Hansen was attacked by another inmate, brutally beaten, severe facial injuries.
Some might call that karma, I suppose,
Yes.
though obviously violence isn't the answer.
A grim postscript, certainly.
But even with the conviction, the guilty verdict,
Right.
there's still that one huge piece missing, isn't there?
The motive.
Exactly. The why. Hansen never confessed. He never explained why he targeted Brittani, why he did what he did. That chilling question mark still hangs over the case for Brittani and her family.
It really does. That lack of understanding must be incredibly difficult to live with.
Absolutely.
But Brittani herself, her story is ultimately one of incredible strength. She didn't just survive, she's thrived. Reports say her development is back on track, she's pursuing her life.
Just remarkable resilience.
It truly is. An inspiring story of overcoming unimaginable trauma, and a testament to that relentless pursuit of justice by her mother and Detective Gatan. What really stands out to you from digging into this case?
For me, it's that convergence we talked about. The human element, Brittani's survival, Diane's persistence, the detective's drive, and then the science, the DNA, the snapshot tech, and even the controversial element, hypnosis, playing a role. It all had to come together.
Yeah, it really is an amazing confluence of factors. What a journey through the Brittani Marcell case. It's just such a powerful reminder, isn't it? How technology, sheer human grit, and a mother's love refusing to give up can unlock mysteries that seem completely unsolvable.
It really does. And it makes you think, doesn't it? As we get these incredibly powerful tools, technology like Snapshot generating faces from DNA, methods like hypnosis potentially unlocking buried memories, how do we balance using these potent tools in investigations? How do we weigh that against the principles of justice, due process, protecting individual rights? It's a really complex ethical area that keeps evolving as forensic science advances. Something to keep considering.
That's a fascinating point to end on. Thank you all for joining us for this deep dive today. We hope exploring Brittani Marcell's story offered some surprising insights and a deeper appreciation for the complexities involved. We'll see you next time.